So before we get started, Zapier might ask you to connect your Toggl account and to pull in an API key. You can find that by going into your profile settings right next to your name, clicking on settings, and then it's going to be at the very bottom here. Just copy and paste that into the pop-up box that'll come up. So in this video, we'll walk through how to automatically create Toggl entries using events that are already in your calendar. This came from Kyle, who asked if it was possible to automate Toggl without manually starting and stopping the entry within the Toggl app, and in fact it is. And so that's what we'll walk through today. I got to this page that you're looking at by going to Zapier.com, and then in the upper right-hand corner, you just click on Make a Zap, and I'll walk you through how to create what you're seeing in front of me. So once you click on Create a Zap, the first thing it's going to ask you to do is choose an app. So what I'm going to do is click on Google Calendar, because again, what we're doing is the trigger in this case is going to be the calendar event that causes the action, which is the start in Toggl. So I clicked on Google Calendar, and there's a bunch of different triggers that we can do, but in this case, we're going to do it based off of the event start. So as soon as the event starts, excuse me. Then the second piece to go through is typical of any Zapier automation. What calendar do you want us to connect it to? You can use the drop down to select your Google Calendar, or sign in if this is your first Zap. I chose my personal calendar. And then the next step it's going to ask you to do is customize the event. So here are the specifics of the trigger of sorts. So it asks you, okay, we have the account, what calendar do you want us to choose from? I went ahead and chose, again, my main personal account. If you have a calendar, if you have multiple calendars, choose one that's best for you. And then it says, how far before the event do you want us to trigger? And I just did 1 minute because in this case, I want it to start right before the calendar event starts. If you're doing this for time tracking for a client, for example, and you always log in 10 or 15 minutes beforehand to prep for that meeting, you could put it 10 or 15 minutes beforehand. You can custom field here. You can enter in what number is best for you. And again, I did 1 minute, but I can even do 1 second. Nope, just 1 minute. All right. And then the next one here is search term. So it's not going to trigger every single event within that calendar. It's only going to trigger based off of events that fall within the search term. So again, if you are tracking and you're doing this for a client, this would be the perfect time to put in search term based on the client. So let me give you another example. So this is going to look at the subjects of the calendar invites within your Google Calendar. So again, if you, client's a perfect example here. If you are using working for a client and all of your subjects with them start with, iCloud, right? At, meeting with iCloud, you would put in search term iCloud, and anytime it's an event with iCloud, it would kick off this automation. So this is the really key piece of this. It's important to have some sort of naming convention with your calendar if you're going to use this automation. I always put the client before, put a little dash, just if that helps, and then I put the topic of meeting. That's how my subjects are, but for this example, I'm just going to pull in work time and go to the next step. So the next thing it's going to ask you to do is find the data. And I've already done this, so it has the big congratulations, but it'll come down here and in the bottom it says usually test and continue. And what it's doing there is going within your Google Calendar to try to find an example of that event. And it'll come back with an error most likely if that search term here is not found within your calendar. So make sure that's correct. Make sure you have a little green bar here before moving forward. So I'm going to click on Done Editing. Whoops. I'm going to click on Done Editing, and it'll take you actually to do this. So it'll say, okay, now we have the trigger. What action do you want to take? And in this case, we're going to choose the app of Toggl. So come in here, you can just click on Toggl, enter it in via text if you don't see it. and then you'll choose the action event. So with this, what we're going to do here is actually start the time entry. There's a place later on where it'll give you the ability to determine a stop as well. But again, here is going to be the start, because you click on start, hit on continue. Then same thing here, it's going to ask you to log into the account. I posted this in the beginning of the video, or excuse me, it'll ask you to set up the account if you haven't already done so. I posted this in the beginning of the video. Just click on your Toggl account. And now it'll ask you to customize the time entry. So it has the information it needs. Now it's going to ask you how you want it to look within Toggl. So if you have a couple of workspaces, you can choose that here. You can also choose a project, or just like everything lovely with Calendly, you can choose to create a new project or use one from the summary, right? Or from the example event. If this is for the example that you're always working with the same client, you would maybe put in the client's name here. I'm going to work with work test. Put that in there. You can put that, it's a project will come up, test up of one of your existing projects. I don't have any set up there. And then task. So you can choose a task. What I'm going to do in this case is put in a custom, because if you're not familiar with Toggl, tasks are filed under projects, and typically that's some sort of description for the project that you're working on. So I'm going to click on my summary to give it some sort of information, right? I want to know what I'm doing. And then the next one here is stop. So when should we stop the time entry? And this is a perfect time to just use that lovely integration that Zapier gives you and pull in the event end time. Now, if you wanted to add a few minutes after the fact, you can click on the plus here and add in minutes. I'm just going to do event end. Is it billable? You can do that yourself. Description, I'm just going to leave blank. And created with Zapier, you can do maybe Zapier. Lovely. All right, we're going to hit continue, and what it's going to do now is run a little test. If I have, let's do that, test and continue. It's kind of pulling up an example here. Ah, lovely. Actually, let me walk you guys through this. So what you can see here is I got an error that this end time must be after the stop time. And playing around a little bit, I saw that the test actually has the same start and end time, which makes things a little bit difficult. So I'm going to go up here and see what I can do to maybe pull in different data. All right, so I went up here, I asked it to pull in more data. I just pulled in event B, which is going to be another type of B. And this is you can see the summary here says work time. So this is one that I created to test, right? And you can see that the start time down here, date pretty, 5:45, it ends at 6:15. So this should give us, shouldn't give us the error that we're going to see below, but let's give it a try. Same end time, but said continue. Test and continue. And I tell you, I love a good problem. Now we get the green bar that we know that we've done it correctly. It's actually an error on Zapier's end to pull an example with the same start and end time. But just so you know, all I did there was pull in a second event, or a second example, excuse me, up at the very top. So nothing else changed. You should be able to follow the tutorial as is, but let me know if you guys have any questions, and I hope that helps.